Hello, my name is Nemo, KE8PVL. I'm an amateur radio enthusiast. I'm president of Amigos Radio Club, Ashtabula County.
My name is Rykus. I'm a comic fanatic. I've been since I was my kid and grown up, and now I'm a owner of Captain's Comics.
And this is Ashtabula Hobby Talk. Welcome to the show. So I guess let's kind of talk about ourselves a little bit, and then we'll
Yeah, that makes sense.
talk about why we started the show, and then we'll get into some really cool stuff. So I have a have,
It, it seems kind of interesting because we both have similar backgrounds.
yeah. I did IT work for a little while, and I quit doing that and went into doing video production and did that for a couple of years. The life circumstances, and I had to get out of doing that, but I really enjoyed it. And through all of that, I had some pretty cool hobbies. I like flying kites. It sounds like an odd one, but I was captain of a pretty successful regional airsoft team that went around from New York to Michigan, all the way south into Kentucky, doing pretty big airsoft events. The Lion Claws events were a regular thing for us, 3, 4, 500 people. And now I'm in amateur radio, and that's a hobby I really enjoy, and I'm going to be sticking with it probably until I can't walk.
Well, I never really got into hobby radio, but I'm kind of interested in it.
Yeah, it's great. I have fun with it. There's so many aspects to it, and I'm excited to bring some of my fellow ham radio operators on the show with us to kind of expand on some of that. Some of them are doing great things on YouTube channels, but we can get into all that.
Kind of
down
excited
the road.
about that.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, as a kid, I've really wanted to do three things in my life, and I think I've crossed all of them off. I wanted to get into music, and I loved music. I loved movies, and I loved comic books. And I really dove into the whole atmosphere around them. And when I was about 20 years old, me and my friends got together. We formed a band, and I was the bass guitarist, and we played around a little bit. We sucked. We sucked bad, but I mean, it got us together, and we got to play a little bit, and we have some experiences for it. But overall, it just wasn't going to happen, so I moved on. And since I was played around a little bit of music, I got into a couple other of my friends that were in music, and I followed them around with the camera, and I kind of started filming them. And I took all the footage, and I went home, and I edited it out, and I was like, you know what? This is really cool. I can edit. I can make videos. My second thing I always wanted to do. So I started getting really good in that, and I built up my computer, and I was doing some home videos, and I followed my friend's band around, and they got signed by this big label. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. And I worked with their manager, and he was a kind of a big time dude. And I started working out in Cleveland, working for him and making these videos, and about that time I had some kids, and I was like, you know what, I need to stay at home a little bit more, and so I kind of put that on the side for a little bit, and I started getting back into my comic books pretty hardcore, and by the time my kids were a little bit old enough, I was like, you know what, I think it's about time I opened up my own comic book store. And me and my wife started planning that out, and it happened. I own my own comic book store. My third thing I want to do in my life. So I kind of fortunate enough to cross out everything I want to do. And now I can just coast and enjoy life and my hobbies that I've made for myself.
Well, and this is a hobby too. It brings our kind of some of our former lives together. Lets us get stuff out there.
This ties it up nicely.
I'm happy to. Man, this was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. I'll tell you that.
It usually is. It's not easy.
But hey, I'm looking forward to doing it. And I'm, in the process, I met you. I moved out here. I've got a hobby farm I raise sheep and chickens, and I work with an Amish guy doing construction, roofing, cleaning, doing stuff. Well, we just happened to have a house clean out one day, and I went in there, and there was a whole room full of comic books, like the size of a garage. And the roof had kind of collapsed and caved in on a
Oh
bunch of
man.
it, and I threw out. I'm not kidding. I filled a quarter of a 15-yard dumpster
Wow.
with comic books because they were all destroyed. And not knowing what to do with the rest of them, I came to you, and you turned me on in the right direction, and you helped me move some comic books through the store there, and I really appreciate that. And we become friends,
Yeah.
and it's when I
When you
said,
first brought in that collection, it broke my heart because there's some really awesome comics in there, and
yeah,
just to think about what you threw away, oh man.
entire sets
Yeah.
like the Shadow hardbound graphic novel series. I think he had every single one of them there, but there were like two that were worth anything at all that weren't like smashed and crushed into
Right.
or so wet that the pages wouldn't come apart again.
It
And
was an amazing collection.
yeah, that guy had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, I did manage to save a bunch and helped you out. I
Yeah.
hope as best I could, getting some money, and we had a good business deal on that. And you know, I said, I'd like to do a a podcast, and know a ton of guys that do podcasting, amateur radio stuff already. But so I didn't want to do just the normal thing. So I said, hey, maybe we should just do it about hobbies in general. And that's when I came to you with it.
Yeah. And I'm all for that because I made a hobby out of everything. I mean, I collect VHS movies, laser discs, DVDs, any type of movie media. I collected it. Action figures, comic books, cards. I was a big collector in everything. Music, I had like a ton of CDs. But it just got overwhelming. And having a house full of kids, I was like, okay, I need to fine tune my collection. And I started chopping off what I didn't need. And there's a huge amount of comic books that I wasn't even going to fill in the holes. So I took that big chunk of comic books that I cut off, started my store.
All right. Well, and now here we are. And I think we've got some good things coming down the road. We'll keep everybody up to date on stuff going on in Ashtabula and in and around the area, and we're going to talk to a bunch of folks about their hobbies. We got some good people lined up, I think. We've got the beekeepers lined up, or at least some. I know I've talked to my friends over in the horticultural community. The Rose Club is probably interested in sitting down with us for a while. Like I said, 2 or 3 other amateur radio operators that run YouTube channels are more than willing to come over and check us out, and we'll see where we can go from there. I know we've talked to some of the other comic book shops in the area.
Yeah, I've reached out, and there's a few creators that I've talked to, and local creators, and local stores.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. All right. So you brought some cool stuff today.
On unfortunate circumstances. Last Saturday, May 24th, one of a major creator passed away. His name was Peter David. He was a titan in the comic book industry. He made a lot of content. Peter David, George Perez passed away 2 years ago in May 6th, the same month, 2022.
Wow.
And it's kind of ironic because there's only a handful of times that Marvel and DC crossed over. I don't know if you can see that very well. But
You'd see it better if our line guy would put it on single camera for you there. That's all right.
There we
We'll
go.
get it. There you
so
go.
2 separate times. This one right here was Peter David, and DC and Marvel crossed over, and he was a big part of that. And then this one right here is George Perez doing the artwork for Avengers and Justice League.
I like that. That's a really cool cover.
And they both worked on the crossovers. Not too many people are going to work on a Marvel and DC crossover. And to have them both pass away in like the same month, 2 years apart, it's kind of devastating.
Well, and he was young too, wasn't he? I mean, he was only like he was under 70. He was in like
Yeah.
late 60s.
Well, they were both born a few years apart, 96 and 94, I believe. Or not 90, 56 and 54, I believe. So that's pretty close.
Yeah, yeah.
But Peter David, this is one of the comic books I got of his. This is probably his most expensive comic book that I have of his.
So what's that kind of go for on the open market, ungraded like that?
It's going for about 200. In really good condition, graded. You can probably get it 300 or a little bit more.
All right. I will have to admit that all my knowledge on comic books as of late has been through Rykus giving me a good crash course as I moved comic books through his shop. So I won't say too much about it.
This comic book right here is kind of reminds me of the 90s of when I was growing up, because Image just founded itself in 92. And it was created by a lot of artists that just got sick and tired of Marvel just cashing in on everything that they created, and they didn't get any credit for it.
Yeah, that's
So
that's something I do know about Marvel.
yeah. So it was devastating for these creators to just go through all that, stress. They work hard and they did all this stuff, and then Marvel just cashes it in and like, thank you, bye. But finally, these 6 creators got tired of it and like, you know what? We're going to go off and do our own thing and found our own company. And they started Image Comic Books. Well, Todd McFarlane, the artist that did that cover, he was drawing that and Peter David was writing it. So them two worked together for a good time. But it wasn't until Image founded that they started clashing pretty hard in letter columns and magazine interviews, that they started, revving up to this big, huge convention blowout.
As social media of the day.
Yep, old time social media was your magazines and interviews that you do.
And now we're on the internet, YouTube, and all that. But so hey, he did TV stuff too. It wasn't just comic books.
Oh, he written all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Peter David written comic books. He written novels. He written screenplays.
One of my favorites, Babylon 5. He did a bunch of episodes for them.
See, I didn't know about that until you told me.
Yeah. Well, when I was doing a little research, I didn't know. I just know I watched Babylon 5, and I like Babylon 5 a lot. And I know who like all the key actors are. But, just like everybody else, when the credits roll, I kind of skip over them.
But yeah, he did a lot of Star Trek novels.
Yeah, I've never read any of the novels, but I have seen every episode of every Star Trek ever made except for Picard. I never started watching those.
Really?
Yeah.
I've heard they were good. A lot of my friends tell me I should watch them.
Yeah.
It's a lot of episodes. It's kind of intimidating.
When Deep Space Nine came out, it took me a minute to get used to that. Or not Deep Space Nine, when Next Generation. It took me a while to.
That's with Picard.
Yeah. I liked Picard. His character was great, strong character in the show. There were some other characters I think they could have done better with, but that's okay. That's just a personal opinion. And, we all know what happened with Wesley Wheaton, but I'm not going to get into all that. We'll stay on topic.
So I have a few pictures of the first one's Peter David. This is who Peter David is. Yeah, he passed away last Saturday. So that's pretty sad. He left behind a wife, and I'm not sure if he had any kids. I don't know too much about him. I find it's best I don't try to get into my favorite celebrities and people's personal lives.
Well, I always say every loss is a tragic loss. But
Right.
when you have an icon like this go, it affects so many people.
It does. He affected a lot of people. So he created Spider-Man 2099. I don't know how many people know about that, but
I think I had a couple of those.
yeah. So Spider-Man 2099 came out right when I was like riding my bike to the comic book store every week, and it had a nice shiny foil cover, and it just kind of blew my mind. It's like, wow, this is what Spider-Man's going to look like in the year 2099. It was futuristic based. And then it was a series of them. There was like Ravage 2099, Punisher 2099, Doom 2099. I mean, I think there was even a Hulk 2099. There's a bunch, but Spider-Man's and has got to be one of the best ones. It was well written, and that character made it past the 90s and into 2000s. He made it into the Spider-Verse TV, the cartoon. So you can probably expect to see a lot more with Spider-Man 2099. Then he also created Professor Hulk. It's not really creating, but the personality of Professor Hulk. I mean, you had your angry Hulk, and then you had Bruce Banner, but this is the first
Isn't
time.
that Beast just painted a different color?
No, he's still green. It's Bruce Banner actually in control of the
I
Hulk.
kind of always thought Beast was like the answer to the Hulk. You know what I mean? Like he was the smart guy who was still big and strong.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just my thoughts.
Well,
on
the
that.
Beast went through a color change too, just like the Hulk did. The Beast was actually skin colored, and then he was gray, and then he turned blue.
I remember the gray time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but Professor Hulk was the first time that Bruce Banner had full control over the Hulk, and so we had a smart Hulk for a while, and that led into this other comic book. It's Dale Keown was creator of Pitt, and just seeing this Hulk with guns is kind of neat. He's just overpowered. Like, what else are you gonna do with Hulk? I mean, he's this big, huge guy. He's like, okay, just give him a bunch of a rattling gun and, just have at it. It's like, okay, that's a great idea. It looks visually compelling. So Peter David knew what he was doing when he just gave this big, huge, muscle-bound freak a bunch of guns. Doesn't make sense, but it looks awesome.
Well,
Right?
Arnold with some guns don't make sense either all the time. One
Right.
in each hand.
Yeah.
So
It just doesn't make sense, but it sold, and especially with Dale Keown's art. I mean, he went on later to do Pitt, and that was amazing. He was actually a musician too, but I'm not talking about Dale Keown right now. I'm trying to focus on Peter David. He also did X Factor. He didn't create it, but he started a new chapter of it and creating new characters for it. And this captivated me as a child as well. Everything I'm talking about is personally what I was influenced by his career. And then he also did some Star Trek novels. And I'm not sure how many he did. I never read Star Trek. I never watched Star Trek. I'm interested in it. Maybe when I have more free time, I can just sit down and binge watch them all. But there's a huge amount of content, and Peter David contributed to a lot of it. And I'm not sure if we have time, but this Aquaman. Okay, so I talked about the Hulk with big guns, and Peter David just kind of takes the same character and tries to figure out a way to make him more badass. Can I say that?
yeah,
All right.
I don't care. We could say it, and I think we're okay with that.
I think our editor would edit us out if there's a problem. So he just makes a character more awesome. And that's what he did with Aquaman. I mean, everyone heard the jokes about Aquaman, right? What are you going to do, talk to fishes?
But he can do stuff. Aquaman was cool. I remember him in the what was that, the late '80s, early '90s cartoon show that was on TV with the Justice League. He did stuff.
Right. Well, this cover right here is issue 2, I think, if I'm seeing this right. This is the start of a new chapter for Aquaman, because how cool would Aquaman be if he didn't have a hand and a harpoon instead of it? It's kind of weird, kind of epic. I mean, This guy, the bad guy, is takes control of his superpowers, right? And he pretty much mimics it. So he can talk to fishes now, and he's trying to talk to these piranhas to listen to him. He wants to control piranhas for some reason. I don't know. Weird, bad guys, you know. So he comes up with this scheme, and he captures Aquaman, and he's gonna feed him to the fishes. See, and well, he shoves his hand into later on in the comic. I don't know if you can see that. He feeds a mouse trying to control the piranhas, and it's not working. But later on in the comic book, he's fighting him by the lake, and he shoves his hand into the lake, and all of these piranhas destroys Aquaman's hand, and it's just nasty looking. It's all bones, and later on he puts a harpoon on it, and you can see in issue 3 and 4 how awesome he looks. He's fighting Lobo with a harpoon hand. I mean, how cool is that?
Hey, I guess that harpoon. Didn't he have a trident though? Was that?
Well, that's part of his hand. He took the trident and kind of, okay, this is my hand now.
Yeah, that's after I stopped reading comic books. My thing, probably right around Infinity Gauntlet, Secret Wars. That's kind of when I stopped this, and so that's a long time ago. But that meant I was really stoked when I started seeing them coming out in the movies.
But in the 90s, I mean, he was a joke. I mean, everyone laughed at him. Even the superheroes laughed at him. But I don't know if they laughed at him with his harpoon hand.
Well, I mean, DC always had their joke characters, like the Wonder Twins.
Yeah.
They could just turn into weird stuff, but they couldn't do it by themselves.
No.
So that was comic books. But man, it's sad that he passed.
Absolutely.
And condolences to all the family and friends that knew him. Sounds like he was a really good guy.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll move forward a little bit here to just some stuff going on in the area. We've got July 19th coming up here. Is the Ashtabula County Ham Fest. All the amateur radio guys in the area get together. We have a big swap meet over there at. Right now, we've been doing it out at Pioneer Picnic, and they've been helping us out a lot over the years. We've been running it there, I think, 4 years straight now. And so that's going to be the Saturday 19th in July, and that's 8 to 3. And we're going to have some other stuff, too. There's a big kitchen. So we'll have food and all that stuff for folks. There's a playground for the kids, and we'll have testing on that day, too. So that'll be cool. I'll get some more information ready for the next show so that we can start putting that up there. And speaking of the Pioneer Picnic area, they've been doing big fundraisers. Their main stage for their concert stage collapsed over the wintertime from the big winter storm that we had at the beginning of the winter.
Yeah.
And they've been doing fundraising this year, trying to rebuild it. They're 3/4 of the way to the $20,000 goal that they're trying to make it to. And so check them out on Facebook. Pioneer Picnic, I believe, is if you just search Pioneer Picnic on Facebook, they'll come up. And then the actual Pioneer Picnic Festival, which is called Pioneer Picnic, that's going to be August 29th through September 1st, and they're going to have all kinds of cool stuff. Horse rides, like horse and carriage rides. They're going to have three-legged sack races. They're going to have, I hope Abraham Lincoln is coming out. This year, there's a guy that comes out. He plays Abraham Lincoln and does the speech.
Oh, wow.
On the stage every year. And
The 407 years.
Yeah. And he sits down and does a Q&A, and he is on point. You can ask him any question about Abraham Lincoln, and he knows it.
Wow.
And he comes out like 2 or 3 times during the fair. There's going to be tons of food and lots of great stuff to do. They've got a lots of stuff to do for the kids too. Like there's going to be what are those things called? Those little electric cars that the kids run around.
Go-karts?
Power wheels. There's going to be a Power Wheels demolition derby.
Wow.
They do all kinds of cool stuff. So check it out. The last weekend in August, 4 days this year because of the holiday weekend. And then on top of that, we've got benefit dinner coming up here for the Amish community. The local Amish church puts on a benefit dinner once a month, and that's going to be on June 6th. That's this coming month, right? May, June.
Yes.
Yeah, June 6th, and that's going to be 4 to 8. And I don't have the address right in front of me here, but I think it's going up on the screen there. It's on Hamden's Corners Road. Go out there and eat. It's barbecued chicken. Like, they cook it on this grill. It's amazing the way they do it. They cook 2,000 pounds of chicken in 3 hours, usually right around that, from 4 to 8, whatever. Sometimes they run out, so get there early. But they're going to have pies, homemade salads, all kinds of good stuff, and, Chinese auction and all that. So hopefully we'll get some people out to that. And I'm looking, and we got a couple more minutes. So you want to tell people where we can be found?
Well, I'm located in North Kingsville, Ohio. I got a store in the corner of 193 and Route 20.
All right. We've got the address for the store. Maybe we could start putting that up on the screen at some point.
Maybe some links down below.
Yeah, maybe.
Is that what they do?
Is that how they do it now?
I don't
Links
know.
down below?
Yeah.
Do you got a website for the store or just the Facebook page?
We just have the Facebook page. We had a website, but it's just easier to control with just one source that expands.
Gotcha.
Maybe in the future we'll dive more into the internet, but I've always been locally based, and I like to treat our local customers first.
Absolutely. We should support our local businesses as best we can. And I can be found on YouTube. I've got another YouTube channel. Part of my hobby is running a net, weekly radio net, and I'll get into that a little more later. But if you want to check it out, it's the Wednesday Night Joke Net. And personally, I can be found on Facebook as well. If you search me out there too, I can answer questions for you. All right.
After this, we're probably going to pay more attention to the Facebook and look at comments. Right? I don't usually.
Well,
spend
we
a whole
might
lot of
do
time.
it. We might do like a Discord thing, like
Okay.
because that way we can talk to our, and then once we go live, start doing the live streams too. We've got our line producer Andrew over there. He's also a amateur radio operator, and he's one of the beekeepers, and he does some drone stuff too. Pretty cool stuff that he does, and he's going to help us out with some of that stuff too. We're working on getting him a third camera so that you can see his face every once in a while.
I'm here. If you can hear me, I am here.
All right. So
I would like to talk to him about some of his hobbies because some of them intrigue me.
yeah, we'll put him up here, third chair.
never
We'll
heard
do
of it.
some rotation around.
I never heard someone collecting these things that he collects, so I'd like to get into that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Geiger counters too.
I have too many hobbies.
Yeah, that's what she said. All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, folks, and we'll catch you next week.
And if you like and subscribe us, we'll put more content out.
Absolutely.